Welcome back to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I am your host, Kyle King, and today we're going to dive into something that's absolutely critical for any organization, whether you are a nonprofit organization, a school, as long as you are mission driven in some type of capacity, especially if you're a nonprofit. But if you're working to drive meaningful change, if you're working to drive meaningful impact, and if you're working to understand your donors, this conversation is for you. Now, we've seen it all. We've seen the donation ask, the email campaigns, the fundraising events. But here's the truth. Here's the honest truth. You cannot build real, lasting relationships with donors if you don't know who they are and what drives them and why they care. And I have a lot of conversations with nonprofit executives and school leaders and mission driven organizations and leaders in general. And we can't build the relationships that we are called to build with these individuals. We cannot build lasting anything if we don't know who they are and what drives them and why they care. And today I'm going to be walking you through a step by step process that will allow you to build your donor profile, a tool I've used personally with my students in the NP Accelerator program, a tool that I've used with nonprofit teams around the country, a tool that I've used with schools around the country and organizational leaders to help them define the kind of donor who doesn't just give them money, but champions their mission with enthusiasm, authenticity, and allows them to go from stranger to superfan. So I want you to grab a notebook on your, or I want you to grab a notebook on your side, whether you're listening to the live recording or you're listening to the replay. I want you to grab a notebook because by the end of this episode, you are going to have a clear framework. You're going to have a clear framework to create your donor persona, a real human story behind every contribution. So let's get to it. So before we get started into the weeds, into the meat, into the conversation today, I want to just give a few different perspectives. So I had the privilege of talking to a good friend of mine that runs a very successful nonprofit organization this morning. And we were talking about just her mission. We were talking about the purpose in which why she got started as an organization. And I just simply asked just a very simple question. I asked her the question of what are the measurable impacts, or what is the measurable impact that you want to be able to achieve within the next 12 months? Like, how are you measuring impact? What are the results that you've achieved over the last 2 years that you have had this organization? And she just started kind of rambling off definitely the first few things that came to her mind. And then I started asking deeper questions about that specific impact. So one of the things that she mentioned, she was like, capacity. And I said, how do you measure success? And she said, capacity. And I said, well, I want you to define what capacity looks like. And she said, by whether I'm talking, what did she say? I'm looking at her notes now. Oh, she wanted to be able to help people understand how when they come in, they're at full capacity, and her organization helps people reduce their capacity. So that was her initial response. But I was looking for more because she talked about all of these different things that she wanted to be able to do and all of these different programmings and services and things that her members were learning and all of these things. But the reality of it is, the truth is that she just wasn't clear. She wasn't clear in what she did. She had this great program. She had great results. She created great experiences, but she was not clear in the type of impact that she was actually creating with her organization. And the first point that I want to give you before we get into the worksheet that we're going to use, that we use in our NP Accelerator program, that I want to be able to walk you all through today so that you could turn these strangers into superfans. The one thing that I told her earlier on our conversation is that you have to design anything with the end in mind. You have to start with the impact. The impact has to come first. The message comes second. And the data tells a story that will then be able to communicate to our donors. All right. So what does this look like in practice? So one of the benchmarks that this organization used is reducing capacity. And it didn't really make sense. To me, it didn't even make sense when I was trying to explain it to you a little bit earlier. So we went through it a little bit deeper. We dove a little bit deeper because I wanted her to get clear, crystal clear about what she was measuring in her organization. I wanted her to get crystal clear in regards to what she was measuring. Because if you do not know how your organization is making an impact, if you don't know how your organization is making a difference, it's going to be challenging for you to be able to communicate that to a donor. It's going to be challenging for you to be able to communicate that by way of a story to the person that you are trying to build a lasting and real relationship with. That's not going to just give you money, but also be able to champion your mission in the long run. So that's step one. We have to design everything with the end in mind. What does the impact look like? So I asked her a deeper question. I said, well, if we could just focus on one thing, just one thing over the next 12 months from an impact related standpoint, whether it's making a difference in helping the members in our program accomplish this thing, or invite them to make these types of connections, or reduce burnout, or get this type of salary, or increase their salaries, whatever the case may be. What is the one thing that you are trying to help them do? And she said, build capacity. I said, okay, let's focus on that. But what does that look like? I want you to define it. And this is one of the things that it's taken me a long time in my leadership and professional journey to really be able to learn, and just personal journey as well, is oftentimes we throw out these buzzwords. We throw out grow confidence and all of these different things, be a better leader. But until we define what that looks like, I don't really believe that we can put a plan in place for us to be able to accomplish it. So I said, what does building capacity look like with your members? And then it allowed her the opportunity to be able to explain it a little bit further. And then we started getting to the root of what she was trying to be able to accomplish within her organization. She said, Kyle, I want to be able, people come to me at capacity. They feel like they don't have the time. They feel like they're losing a lot of their industry connections, and it's allowing them to lose confidence. So I believe by us helping them learn new skills, talk about industry trends, have CEO talks, have these individual roundtables, have these one-on-one sessions, have these immersive experiences, it allows them the time freedom to understand these various components. And then she went and broke all of those things down. I said, yes, that's it. But what I heard her communicate is minimize or build capacity, expand connection, and increase confidence. And then I went back and said, and then I told the organizational story. I said, Sweet C is an organization that helps C-suite executives that are running $50 to $100 million organizations build capacity, expand connection, and increase confidence. Boom. Now you are able to create a message, and now we're able to create a measurable from that perspective. Over the last 6 years, or over the last, in her case, the last 2 years, we have done data on over 100 professionals, and 92% of them are at capacity. They don't have the time, they don't have the capacity, and then that allows them not to have the relationships and the connections to move their careers, their companies, or their visions forward. So what we have established is immersive experience that allows them to expand their connection base of all thought leaders and peers in these various industries to ultimately increase their confidence. But then I challenged her. I said, okay, well, what is the result of the increase of confidence? What is the result? So then she said, well, they're able to build their capacity of their teams. They're able to hire. We see higher organizational effectiveness and efficiency. We see these various things. So what I explained to her, I said, B, the data tells a story. But we cannot tell the story of the data until we have clear measurables. We cannot tell the data of the story until we have clear measurables, and we can't have clear measurables until we understand what impact looks like within the organization. So everybody listening, under the sound of my voice, what we're talking about today is how once you've designed with the end in mind, once you've been able to understand the experience that your members, or in this case, your donors, are going to have, once we're result driven, this allows us the capacity, this allows us the steps, this allows us the strategy. for us to be able to create donor profiles that can align with that specific mission. This allows us to be able to create donor initiatives, donor engagement that allows us to align with these specific initiatives. So in today's conversation, I'm going to walk you through a series of steps, 7 steps in totality, that is based upon one of our frameworks and the NP Accelerator that we've launched to be able to help you not only understand donor profiles and mastering the art of donor profiles, but the ultimate goal is to turn strangers into superfans. Now, what do I mean about turning strangers into superfans? This is not just a buzzword. This is not one of those clickbaits. This is the reality. Many donors have no idea what you're doing. And that is not to throw shade, or that's not to talk negatively about your organization by any means. That's just the reality of this the art of what we are in, the nature of the industries that we are in. They're competing for likes, they're competing for attention, and so many businesses don't recognize the power of consistency, but also the power of marketing and what that does. Oftentimes, it's not the best organization that gets the most money. It's not the best organization that gets the most support. It's oftentimes the organization that markets the best and is in front of people's faces the most. So if an organization doesn't know you, then you are a stranger. But the goal is to turn people that are completely unaware of you into being aware, being bought in, being engaged, being attracted, and then being supported, and then advocates of your brand to the point where they're willing to share it, they're willing to acknowledge it, they're willing to respond, they're willing to hold you accountable, and all of these different things, and invite other people into your organizational network. All right. So step one of this process is donor identity. When I think about donor identity, let's start at the very foundation. And if you're building a house, you have to be able to clear the land, and we have to be able to set a strong foundation. Who is your ideal donor? And I don't just mean a name or a title. I mean really taking the time to understand this individual. And this conversation is going to be, again, for those that are mission-driven leaders, or organizational leaders, because this conversation is important. Whether you are a school leader, whether you are you're a director of development or chief advancement officer, whether you're in the major gifts office, this conversation is for those who are going out there and having those critical and crucial conversations with people that are wanting or have the capacity to support your organization in some type of way. All right. So we have to first start with understanding who is our donor. Who is our ideal donor? And how I break this down is a few different perspectives. First, we have to understand the basic demographics. Is this person 60 or 70, 40 or 30? We have to understand their age. We have to understand where they are. We have to understand their location. We have to understand their occupation, their income range, because based upon their income range, obviously depends on their giving capacity. Okay. Their family status. Are they married? Are they single? Are they divorced? These are the building blocks that allow us to be able to set the foundation to the conversations that we're trying to have with these organizations. Okay. Then number two, once we understand the basic demographics of the person that we're working to attract, then we have to understand what I call as background and lifestyle. So what kind of life do they lead? Are they an urban professional, a small business owner, a retiree with time to volunteer? Like, what circles do they move in? What media or communication channels do they engage with most? Email, social media, LinkedIn, community events, church groups. All of these things, again, are the foundational bricks that are on the ground level so that we can understand first who our ideal donor is. So this step, in my opinion, is all about painting a picture. It's painting a mental image. It's painting a visual that you can carry in your mind when you talk or write to your donors. Because you're not going to talk to a 25-year-old college graduate that is single in the same tone or in the same context that you'll talk to a 75-year-old Black male that is divorced or military retired or retired military. You're not. These conversations have to look different. We have to meet people where they are so that we can, again, have these real authentic engagements so that we can be able to move the needle forward to build lasting and long-term relationships with the people that we're working to get to not just give us money and resources, but be a part of championing our mission forward. Number two, this is probably the most important component, in my opinion, of the 7 steps that I'm going to be sharing today. It's values and alignment. What do they believe in, people? Now that you understand who they are from a foundational perspective, now we need to uncover what they care about. I want you to ask yourself 4 questions. Number 1 is, what values are important to them? And I mean, what values are really important to them? Education? Is it equity? Is it family? Is it faith? Is it innovation? What are the things that are most important to them? The things that keep them up at night, the things that they talk about, the things that they potentially challenge people online about. What are the things that are most important to them that they're having active conversations about on a day-to-day basis? Number 2, what causes have they supported in the past? What causes have they supported in the past? Number 3, which outcomes excite them most, whether it's youth empowerment and development or scholarships or endowments, whether it's community revitalizing the community or doing other things. What are the things? These are the questions. These are the bricks that you can be laying as well. So when I'm having a conversation with a potential donor, I'm asking them their values. Well, what are some of your values, Dr. Johnson? Okay. Well, tell me the story about why you value those various things. Oh, is that right? Your mom? Oh, okay. Well, tell me more about that. So is that something that you normally support or volunteer with or give to? See, these are how you build, again, a relationship. And I wanna put a pin in it right here and say that these aren't just designed to be able to manipulate people to giving to you. All right. These are also allowing you to understand if this person is the right fit for you and if your cause is the right fit for that person. Because here's the key. You want to be able to ultimately understand how your values align with their mission, or how their values align with your mission as an organization. See, I think that a lot of times we think just because people have the capacity or have the means that it is their responsibility to be able to give to us, but we can't be entitled in this process of building this donor profile. All right. So I want you to think of it like holding up a mirror. When a donor looks at your organization, what parts of their identity and values should they see reflected back on them? And the opposite is true. When you look at a donor, what parts of your identity as an organization or as an individual and values should you see reflected back at you? And if there is a misalignment, if there is a disconnect, if there is a misrepresentation, if there is a lacking there of inclusion or equity, then we have to be willing to be able to walk away. And that leads us to step 3, motivation. Why do they give? Why do they give? Are they giving because it's a tax write-off? It's a tax strategy? Or are they giving for social responsibility? Are they giving because there's truly a trust in your vision and organization? Are they giving because of the faith or the legacy or the story, because of emotion? What are they giving? Why are they giving? And what are they giving to? Understanding why people give is more important than understanding what they're getting ready to give. It's powerful, because people give for so many reasons, but far beyond just money. They give because of, again, emotion. They give because of legacy and faith and all of these various aspects. I have an endowment fund for students because I believe in investing in the next generation of leaders and investing in the next generation of scholars. You know why? Because I got a scholarship to go to college when my parents, they didn't graduate college, they didn't attend college. So I wanted to be the one to be able to provide for students that maybe didn't come from the best backgrounds. They maybe didn't have the athletic background. Maybe they didn't have parents that even knew the process. So I want to be able to give students the opportunity, whether it's just paying for their books, whether it's just paying for a semester of something. I wanted to be able to help because that's something that is so important to me. So here's a few questions that I want you to ask. Number one is, what keeps this donor awake at night? And that question, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but in regards to this statement is, what keeps this donor awake at night? Number two, what emotion do you want them to feel when they give? Is it hope? Is it pride? Is it trust? Is it urgency? Because based upon, and this goes back to designing with the end in mind, based upon what you want them to feel, will then determine the type of experience that you are creating for them and with them throughout the whole process of donor engagement. If you want them to feel pride, then you have to be able to communicate something that's going to be a catalyst to them feeling pride. If you want them to establish trust between you as the organization and them, then you have to be trustworthy. If you want them to feel hope and all of these great feelings, then what are you doing as an organization to be able to create these feelings? And then the third question under step 3 is, what could stop them from giving? What could stop them? This is what I call the objection handler. All right. This is what I call the objection handler. What could stop them from giving? Whether it's fear, is it competing priorities? Is it unclear impact? Because I think a lot of times, like the organization that I mentioned earlier in the introduction, if we're unclear in our impact, it's going to be hard for us to be able to close gifts. It's going to be hard for us to secure gifts if we are unclear in what impact looks like within our organization. So when you understand their motivations, when you understand what they care about, when you understand why they're giving and what type of feeling they want to be able to experience when they're giving to your cause, to your mission, to your organization, when you understand these things, you can speak their language. You can make your ask meaningful. And then you, like I said earlier in the conversation, this allows you to build relationships, like really meaningful, authentic relationships that last. And then this moves us to step 4 of the process, which is all about behavior and engagement. How do they give? So when I think about step 1, it's who are they? Step 2 is all about what do they believe in? Step 3 is why do they give? Like, what is the purpose behind their giving? And then step 4 is how do they give? So when you look at the behavior and the engagement of your specific donor, there's a few components that I want you to consider. It's how they engage, all right? Do they give one time or do they give recurring? And when we're asking them critical questions that lead us back to this person's background or history of giving, what this allows us to do as an organization is frame our ask or structure our process to be able to align with what's most already important to them, what's already most important to them. Okay. So the first question that I want you to consider is, do they give one time or in recurring gifts or donations? Are they interested in volunteering or sponsoring events or major gifts? I was having a conversation with a colleague of mine last week, Rochelle Petaway, and she's overseeing the advancement department at Freedom School Partners. And she mentioned something phenomenal to me in regards to developing a donor profile. She was communicating, well, she believed that if you're a grassroots organization and you're just starting off, focus on the volunteers first, the people that are already engaged in the mission, because those are the marketers to your organization. Once the volunteers come, now you're going around, you're having conversations with all of these individuals, you're creating an amazing experience with all of these individuals. And then on the back end, you're talking about your organization, what your organization needs and the vision. And now you're going to be able to have these people go out and do what? Share your message. So you have to ask these questions. Are they interested in volunteering? Are they interested in volunteering or sponsoring events or major gifts? So now we could be able to segment the experiences based upon what they specifically want. Question 3, how do they want to be thanked? How do they like to be thanked? How do they like to be publicly recognized? Whether it's private personal messages, impact reports, exclusive events, what does this look like? And here's a crucial point. Here's a crucial action prompt that I want you to be able to consider. What systems do you have in place to track their engagement? What donor management tool are you using? What CRM tool are you using? Whether it's CRM tagging, giving patterns, follow-up strategies, these are all part of building a culture of donor connection. I think that sometimes we forget that the relationship between organization and donor is almost the same as the relationship between two individuals that are dating each other. If I never followed up after the first date and then I just asked that person to marry me and give a gift, you would be looking at me crazy. And I think it's the same experience when we think about this giving process. If I didn't follow up, if I didn't affirm, if I didn't ask questions, if I didn't show interest, if I didn't invite you in, and all of these different things, then probably, just probably, you may lose out on that opportunity. And that leads us to step 5, fit and future. Are they aligned with our mission? And I want you to reflect on a few things. Why is this donor the right fit for our organization? Like, why? And if you can't specifically and clearly articulate that, maybe there's some misalignment there. And oftentimes, what I find in working with organizations, both schools, nonprofits, and just mission-driven organizations as a whole, is that it's not a matter of if this person can give or not. There's a lot of people out here with a lot of resources, and not just resources financially, but also time, capacity, and access and people. It's a matter of if this person is actually in alignment with our mission and vision and values. And these are the opportunities for you to stand firm in your mission. Just because that person has hours to volunteer or give doesn't mean that person's the right fit for your organization. Just because that person has millions of dollars doesn't mean that it's the right fit for the organization. How does partnering with them expand your impact? What can you offer beyond the transaction, whether it's purpose, belonging, or transformation? And here's a little secret that I want you to literally write down. If a donor can describe your organization in one word after giving, the word is North Star. And I know that's technically 2 words, but what is the word that would best describe your organization through the giving process and working with a donor? And I want you to write that down right now. And then I want you to get clear in asking your donors what that experience would be for them, what that word would be for them. And if the word doesn't align, if the experience doesn't align, if everything doesn't align clearly and concisely, then there may be something that we have to shift as a part of this process. There may be some small tweaks that we have to make as a part of this process. And that leads us to step 6, which is building the persona, like giving your donor a name. As an author, as a former publisher, I believe this is one of the most critical pieces. When you are writing a book, when you're designing a curriculum, when you're building a program, when you're in learning and development, creating a character is important. And even in writing a book and writing a movie, all of those different things, creating a character is important. Their name, their background, their origin story, their motivations for giving, their primary value alignment, their preferred giving method, their key quotes, all of these different things are important. You need to understand their birthday. You need to understand their sports teams. You need to understand all of these different key components, because this persona is now your mental guide for every single interaction, every ask, every story you talk about your mission. Every single thing that you do has to align with that specific character, has to align with that specific donor. So I want you to give them a name. I want you to give them a backstory, and I want you to take 10, 15, 20 minutes, an hour, however long it takes to be able to write down your donor persona. Who is the person that you're going after? What is their name? What is the background that they come from? What is their origin? What are things that they've struggled with and experienced? And here's the truth. Oftentimes what I see is organizational donor profiles are in alignment with the founding people, or even with yourself. If you are the executive director and founder, then most times you're founding Donor profile is a lot like who you used to be that led you to even experiencing these things. So now it's time to put some action together. And step 7 is action plan. Like, I want you to turn a lot of these insights that we've shared today into action. Number 1 is, what's one thing, just one thing you can do this week to reach or attract this type of donor? The type of donor that doesn't, again, want to just give money, but wants to champion your mission, wants to be able to grow your initiative, wants to be able to share your message, wants to be able to tell your story, wants to be able to be a thought partner and a champion for you moving the needle forward. Number 2, what content, story, or event will resonate with these individuals on your donor profile the most? And then number 3, which current donors really fit in this profile? And how can you deepen those relationships? Whether it's scheduling a lunch, whether it's just giving a call or shooting a text and saying thank you. How can we strengthen the relationships that we already have? Remember, building donor profiles is not just a one-time activity. It's not just a one size fits all. It's a living, evolving, consistent process. And the most thoughtful leaders really consider the person that's going to be contributing to their organization. And the more thoughtful you are as that leader, the stronger your donor relationships will become, hands down. So when we look at these steps of the donor profile development process, number 1 is you have to understand, who are they? Their basic demographics, their background and lifestyle. Number 2, we have to understand, what do they believe? Like, what are their values? How are we in alignment with this individual? Number 3 is, why do they give? What are their motivating factors? Number 4 is behavior and engagement, which is answering the question of how do they give? Number 5 is, are they aligned with our mission? Is this a right fit for where we're going in the future? Number 6 is, give your donor profile or give your donor a name. And I want you to get clear in building a persona about who this person is. I promised you at the beginning of this episode that I'd give you a step-by-step approach to building donor profiles that help not only just your organizations connect with supporters, but connect with supporters that are real. Connect with supporters that are actually high net worth. Connect with supporters that are human individuals that are committed to driving your mission forward. And if you take the time, like if you really intentionally take the time to understand your donor identity, their values, their motivators, their behaviors in alignment with your mission, you will not only raise more funds, you'll be able to create a champion for your cause who sticks for the long run. Because it's hard to keep donors engaged. It's hard to be able to keep them on the hook. It's hard because it's also this process of continuing to be innovative, continuing to be compassionate. So what I want you to do, I want you to take a minute after this podcast. I want you to grab your notes. I want you to grab some paper, and I want you to start filling it out to the core and really breaking down all of the major components of who your donor is and what they have to offer. And even just one donor persona can transform the way you approach fundraising as a whole. And that's it. I appreciate you so much for listening to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King, reminding you, as always, that culture isn't just for your team, it's for your community. It's for your donors. And it's for every single person who touches your mission. One of the questions that we ask every single time that we come on here is, what type of culture are you spreading? See, the energy you bring is the culture you create. Make yours worth catching. We'll see you all next episode. Peace.